Hello, this is astrologer coach Sonja Francis, and today we're going to be talking about the upcoming new moon in Leo, which will be exact at 5.5 degrees of Leo on July 28th at 1:55 p.m. New York time and 6:55 p.m. London time. Now, the moon aligns with the sun. That's what a new moon means. And the new moon is usually a good time to go within to plant new seeds for anything that we'd like to begin over the next 28 days, or that we'd like to plant or seed a couple of days after the new moon becomes exact. Something that we want to see grow over the next 28 days. And I will be mentioning the best and most potent time to set intentions for this lunar cycle towards the end of the video, so stay tuned for that. And also feel free to use my timestamps, which are in the description part of the video, below the video, to watch this video in smaller sequences or jump to a part of the video that you're interested in. Now, there are several planets that are of importance in this new moon chart. Jupiter and Chiron are both in Aries, and they're both exalted because they're stationing, which means they're moving slower in the sky. Mars, Uranus, and the North Node align in Taurus. They're all coming together in Taurus. And finally, Saturn in Aquarius and Mercury in Leo square the moon nodes in Taurus and Scorpio. Now, the dwarf planet or asteroid Ceres is very close to this new moon in Leo. So this makes nurturing our inner creative child and any physical children that we have nearby essential for the next 28 days. Jupiter and Chiron are not only exalted in this new moon chart, but they also both make an aspect to the new moon, Mercury, and Venus. So there's definitely lots going on. So more in a moment with all the details, but first let's talk about just the Leo energy that is connected to this new moon. The new moon in fun-loving, extroverted, expressive Leo has us looking for heartfelt experiences. It's important for us to express ourselves, to learn about love, and in particular to learn about how those things work together to help us create from the heart and from a place of joy. So joy and heartfelt expression is really important to Leo. Now think about the keywords for this self-expressed fire sign. Proud, generous, hospitable, caring, warm, authoritative, active, open, fun-loving. If you think about these keywords, how could you live into those words for the next 28 days? And for more insight about the Leo energy and to get all of the coaching questions from this video in writing, we'll have lots and lots of coaching questions coming up. Feel free to read some or all of the new moon article, which is available on my website at astrologercoach.com. Now, if you're already a member of my online community, check your membership portal by signing into your account, and you will find all my posts inside the My Content tab. Now, back to the new moon chart. As I started to talk about earlier, Jupiter and Chiron and Aries are both exalted and stationing at the time of the new moon. And when a planet is in its station phase, we are more fully aware of its energy because the planet's moving more slowly. So the energy of the planet vibrates louder. So this helps us to get more connected to those energies as they exist within ourselves. Now, Chiron remains exalted until July 30th. Chiron is the wounded healer in our chart. It started its retrograde phase on July 16th already at 16.5 degrees of Aries. And Jupiter remains exalted until August 4th. And Jupiter is all about expansion of some sort. So we get to see where we need to embrace those energies more fully so that we can use them in a healthy way without getting lost in the lower vibrations of their expression. Now, the lower expressions of Jupiter, for example, include things like, oh, the heck with it, I deserve this and more, the rules do not apply to me. And then also, generally speaking, Jupiter will be often... The lower expression of Jupiter will be too much of a good thing, blind optimism, excesses of all sort, stretching the truth, overpromising or overindulgences of any kind. So as you can hear, some of these lower expressions are things that we kind of want to check in with and tune into and see, is this something that's happening in my life? Is it something that's happening in my outside life? Now, Jupiter will station retrograde at 8 degrees and 43 minutes of Aries only 2.5 hours after the new moon becomes exact. And it will move backwards until November 23rd of this year, when it turns direct again at 28 degrees and 48 minutes of Pisces. So it's actually moving back into Pisces for a little bit. And then Jupiter will once again reach 8 degrees and 43 minutes of Aries on February 15th, 2023. So we're kind of like needing to revisit a lot of stuff before we can fully move forward. Now, the energy of Jupiter represents our desire to seek insight via knowledge, something that we want to seek knowledge, especially knowledge that's not day-to-day knowledge. It has more to do with sort of like a bigger picture knowledge, philosophy, religion, things like that. It is also the planet of possibility, optimism, and growth. And this includes mental and spiritual growth. So as best as you can, get excited, trust your gut, and channel the energy into physical outlets or projects that you feel passionate about during this Jupiter station phase, while Jupiter is really strong in the sky. Now, while Jupiter is retrograde in Aries, Jupiter asks us to re-examine and redefine our belief in ourselves, our personal goals, and our relationship to our sexual or physical identity. So ask yourself, where do I need to grow beyond old belief structures? Where do I need to expand and be brave? Where might an optimistic attitude make all the difference in the world? And where might an overly optimistic attitude harm rather than help? So we gotta see kind of like where we're at, right? Are we being too optimistic? Are we not being optimistic enough when it comes to our personal goals, when it comes to ourselves and what it is that we're currently passionate about? So feel free to also check out my recent webinar, Jupiter Station Retrograde in Aries, for more insight on this, and especially as this regards to your own birth chart, because we talk about this in more detail in this webinar. And this webinar will be available for purchase on July 23rd after 4 p.m. Eastern Time. There will be a link below this video, so feel free to click on that link at that time. Now, the other thing I want to mention is that Jupiter, Saturn, Chiron, Neptune, Pluto, Juno, and Vesta are all retrograde for the next 10 weeks until October 5th. Uranus will join into this retrograde bonanza on August 23rd. And we will also cover this Uranus in retrograde and station in our next forecasting forum on August 13th. So if that's of interest to you, check that out and take a look at that. And Mercury will join into that retrograde bonanza on September 9th. So there's lots of retrogrades already in place or starting within the next couple of weeks. So it is really worth remembering with these retrograde phases that 92% of the time, at least one planet is retrograde. And you could say that it is normal for 2 or 3 planets to be retrograde at any given time. But having this many retrograde planets all at once is relatively rare. That really only happens about 3, 4, 5% of the time. Now, taken all of this together, all these retrogrades indicate that most of our growth right now is eternal and is going to be eternal at the very least until the beginning of October. And that inner changes are necessary for us in order for us to move forward. Sometimes you have to make inner adjustments first before you can actually see adjustments in the outside world, before you can move something forward in the outside world. So retrogrades often also correspond with delays for that reason, calling us to first repair what's not working or what's out of alignment. And as best as you can, release what is no longer viable and realign with your soul's intentions. You may also want to rethink, research, rectify, reduce, restructure, reconcile, and or relinquish during these retrograde times. And the more we realign our inner world with the outside world, the faster we can move forward when three out of the outer planets, Pluto, Saturn, and Jupiter, the planet of communication and commerce, Mercury, and 2 of the asteroids, Juno and Vesta, will move forward. And this happens in October, on the 2nd, 5th, 8th, and 23rd of October, and then later on November 23rd. The last one to go direct is Jupiter on November 23rd. So as a reminder, Jupiter and Chiron are not only exalted in this new moon chart, but they're also both making an aspect to the new moon, Mercury, and Venus. So the highly exalted Jupiter in Aries trines the new moon in Leo. And this is a nice aspect. It's harmonious. Things flow nicely. We feel excited about new adventures and have an opportunity to connect and explore and become part of something new and exciting. Our positive attitude helps us to take risks that get us unstuck, and we have the vigor to blast through challenges. So ask yourself, what could I tackle right now that seemed impossible before? So this is just something to check in with yourself periodically over the next 28 days and just see, is there anything that I could be tackling right now that just seemed a little bit too heavy before, or impossible, or it just didn't seem like I would be able to do it. I didn't have the courage or the energy or the willpower or whatever it might have been. Now, an exalted Chiron in Aries trines Mercury in Leo, again, a harmonious aspect. And with Chiron representing the wounded healer and our ability to heal others, this combo brings a wonderful possibility for active healing in regards to our mental conditioning and our day-to-day thinking. Now, acknowledging that we are pursuing a worthy goal, especially one that is fulfilling to us on all levels, physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual, that also supports a conversation that's aimed at healing our insecurities. Because with Chiron and Aries, we do feel a little insecure right now, so we really need to make sure we approach things on a more holistic level, on a more heartfelt level as well. So ask yourself, what can I now begin to acknowledge about myself or my goals? How open can I be to being courageously myself with all my sensitivities and insecurities in place? And what might a compassionate inner dialogue and self-acceptance do for my inner playful child? And how complex could I allow myself to be? You know, because as human beings, we're so complex. There's so much complexity in our connecting with others, in our thinking, in our feeling, in our, moving with life, moving with spirit, all those things. There's just so many things to integrate all the time as a human being. So how complex could I allow myself to be? And could I give others permission to be just as complex? Great questions right here. And what if I brought forgiveness, understanding, and a childlike openness to any conversations or interactions that feel emotionally triggering to me? Because, we all have our triggers, and we all sometimes get to that place where we're just kind of like, we get a little bit reactive over things. And a lot of times, of course, that reaction has very little to do what's happening in the current moment, but has a lot to do with our past, or with wounding from the past, or things that we have sensitivities around. So what if I brought forgiveness, understanding, and a childlike openness to any conversations or interactions that feel emotionally triggering. And of course, a lot of the times with my questions, I will say 5% more. So what if I brought 5% more forgiveness, understanding, and childlike openness? You could ask it like that as well. Now, Jupiter and Chiron both also square Venus in Cancer at the time of the new moon, and this aspect is asking us to question our most fundamental beliefs and conditioning around money, valuing ourselves, and our relationships. And it also challenges us to step out of our comfort zone and grow beyond who we thought we were when we were growing up or in the past. And we may feel generally insecure or sensitive about our identity, right? With Chiron involved there. So ask yourself, what assumptions am I operating from in connection with money that are based in the past and are no longer applicable? What are the assumptions around love? So just really give yourself time to investigate these questions. And where am I overindulging based on what I think I deserve rather than what I truly need? So we have to kind of like gauge, like, what is it that I really need today, right now? Or am I still operating on assumptions or places where I think that this is something that I actually deserve, right? So what's the difference there? This would be a great one to journal on. And what might change if I brought 5% more compassion to myself and others? What if I simply decided to have faith in the healing process? And if you want to work with those coaching questions to align yourself with the new moon energies over the next 28 days, after the new moon becomes exact, you can always journal on any of these questions, or you can meditate with them, or you can simply just sit with the questions and just allow sort of the answers to come to you. But just remember that this is a very intuitive process. The questions are meant to support you in aligning energetically and intuitively with the current universal influences that we're experiencing, rather than, trying to answer questions with the mind. It's not a test to see how smart you are or how much you know. It's really more about finding a way to connect ourselves with the universal energies. So to get access to all of the new moon questions from this video in writing, feel free to check out the various levels of membership that are available on my website at astrologercoach.com, if that's something that you'd like to engage with. And let's look at a couple of more things with this new moon chart that I mentioned earlier already. Mars, Uranus, and the North Node align in Taurus. And this is an event that happens only every 15 years. And this alignment will be within 10 degrees until August 16th. Now, the last time this alignment took place in any sign was in March and April of 2007 in Pisces. Now, the last time we had this combo in Taurus was in 1855. Okay, so that's a very long time ago. The North Node represents uncharted territory, an area of our lives where we must grow, even if it's scary, even if it requires effort on our part. But this effort will be rewarded, and is usually, when we do put the effort in, we usually feel very fulfilled by having done so. Now, the North Node in Taurus emphasizes the necessity for organic self-esteem and a healthy relationship with the physical world. And the physical world is anything connected to our body, our resources, the earth, the planet, right? So anything connected to the physical world and the enjoyment of the physical world. Now, the goal is to experience happiness in connection with that physical realm. Mars and Uranus aligning with the North Node could bring a lot of nervous energy with it, along with a lot of unknowns. But our willingness to innovate is strong with this alignment. So just keep your focus on innovation. We are ready to roll up our sleeves and do the work. Mars is there going like, yep, let's do it. It's time to develop more awareness around what our own values genuinely are versus those we have adopted or inherited from our caregivers or from society or from other people. So take a look at what do you truly value, what is really yours rather than something that you've taken on. Now, we will most likely feel sudden spurts of energy moving through our bodies, and this could make us rash in thought and deed. So ask yourself, might a deep breath into my belly calm my nervous system? And I love reading this sentence or this question because every single time I read this question, I immediately take this deep breath into my belly. And so I feel the result of that immediately. I don't even have to answer that question or even sit with that question because it's so immediate, like the physical reaction to just posing that question is really wonderful. Now, what might it look like to consciously break away from situations that have limited me when it came to honoring myself and my talents? So, where can I break away from situations that have limited me when it came to honoring myself and my talents? And where do I need to think differently or take different actions, especially when it comes to the enjoyment of the physical world? Or being able to enjoy the physical world, whether that's because of my connection to my body or because of my connection to my financial resources, things like that. So what are some different actions that I could take? And what might be a new way of seeing, using, and approaching my personal possessions, valuables, money, and talents? So is there a new way of looking at that or a new way of using that, a new way of approaching it when it comes to our personal possessions, valuables, money, and talents? And is there anything that I could point to that is keeping me in a rut, that is keeping me kind of stuck? Because remember with Taurus, sometimes we tend to get a little bit fixed on things. We tend to get a little inflexible sometimes with Taurus, right? So is there anything that I could point to that is keeping me in a rut? And what if I chose to break away from anything keeping me from honoring my uniqueness? And we may be experiencing sudden insights about our finances, our physical reality, the planet, and what's most important to us right now and for the future. And we're ready to experiment. And experimentation is really important right now. Don't settle on one thing, just keep experimenting. But we're also invited to be realistic about our current earthly realities. Be realistic about what is currently so in connection to my body, in connection to my finances, in connection to how I connect with the planet, with my values. Now, it takes courage to try something new and different. So ask yourself, what is the next step on my journey towards becoming an ever stronger, healthy individual, one who honors and loves themselves and is not afraid to have different values from others? That's a great question. And is there anything in my life that I need to approach with progress in mind? Where do you need some progress in your life? Or where can you approach something with progress in mind? And do your best to channel any excess energy that you might be feeling with that Mars Uranus North Node conjunction in a productive way as best as you can, of course. Remember that change is not always progress. Consider all options first and then respond rather than reacting impulsively. Stay flexible and be willing to entertain new possibilities. So ask yourself, what if in small or large ways I could help birth a new age and with it a new world, one that is based on heart-centered consciousness and individual freedoms? And I think that's a beautiful question as well, something that we can probably journal on for more than just 28 days. And then also available on July 23rd in the evening, There's much more on that alignment in connection with our own birth chart in my webinar, Uranus North Node Alignment in Taurus. Feel free to take a look. There will be a link below. I will have a webinar that combines the Jupiter station retrograde phase in Aries with the Uranus North Node alignment in Taurus. So it's one webinar. So feel free to take a look at that. There's going to be a link below this video. You can check it out in the evening of July 23rd. Now, Saturn is in Aquarius and Mercury is in Leo. And they both square the moon nodes in Taurus-Scorpio with this new moon. So this urges us to see the world through the balance of our blissful hearts and our vision for humanity's future. And the moon nodes encode a tremendous amount of information about the current evolutionary process of humanity. So connecting with others on a deep, authentic level might be just what we need to create a shift in our valuing of ourselves and others and the planet. And also, we need to let go of old traumas from the past. So anything that's connected to something traumatic that we've experienced as a collective or as people, once we can investigate that, make it more conscious and transform these traumas, that can also bring us much closer to a more healthy, abundant connection to the planet, to ourselves, and to other people. Now, squares ask for a shift in perception and direction, and they challenge us to go beyond what is divisive and destructive, and instead to move towards what creates growth. So it's all about growing and finding creative ways of making something work that's not necessarily in harmonious flow with each other. So ask yourself, what fears are asking to be faced? What am I ready to let go of? What steps can I take to heal trauma? Where do I need to decide to step into my own power more fully? What is between me and feeling valued in the world? What if I was the only one of me there will ever be? And what might my value be then? I love those questions. Those are really special. And what might be a realistic and responsible vision for the future and for humanity that can bring about more abundance for myself and the planet? So how might a realistic and responsible vision for the future and for humanity bring about more abundance for myself and the planet? And how might a self-expressed heart and a joyful spirit bring healing to past traumas in our lives, individually and collectively speaking? That's a very apropos question for this particular aspect. So Mercury in Leo also squares Mars and Uranus in Taurus, not only the North Node. And it also opposes Saturn in Aquarius. So let's talk a little bit about that. And that will be it for this new moon. Now, Mercury squared to Mars and Uranus in Taurus is asking us to play a bigger game. And we may feel overwhelmed by what all of that means. So expect the unexpected. Plan on disruption, revelation, and breakthroughs. During this transit, the best mind is an open mind, just so you can kind of integrate and adjust to what's happening. Now, as best as you can, go with the flow, stay open to the new and unexpectedly different. And always remember, whenever there's Uranus involved, whatever Uranus breaks down or shifts in our life, it's always for the best and highest good of ourselves and everybody involved. So even though it might look like things are falling apart, you have to remember that Uranus has a much bigger vision in mind for what is happening in the current moment. So trust that whatever is reorganizing itself is happening for good reason. And ask yourself, could I allow whatever is happening to stimulate new approaches? Where do I stand when it comes to a healthy sense of self? What am I being invited to express at this time? What if I dropped into my heart center, and took a deep breath and allowed myself to speak my truth? Could I give myself and others some space when it comes to our differences? So Uranus, of course, always requires us to also create space, whether that's for ourselves, for other people, whether that's space within our physical bodies, just have more breathing space, have more oxygen move through, have more fresh air. Uranus wants space. So think of ways in which you can create more space in your life when it comes to your own resources, your body, or your physical experience. Now, for more detailed description of these aspects, please feel free to read my weekly forecast for July 25th until the 31st. I'll talk about all of these Mercury aspects in this weekly forecast in more detail. And if you're already a member, you have access to that for free. And if you're not yet a member, feel free to take a look at the various memberships that are available. Now, lastly, let's talk about Mercury's opposition to Saturn in Aquarius. And that is asking us to slow down our thinking and get really clear about who we want to interact with and where we need more distance with others. So as best as you can, find your inner balance so you can speak from an open, joyful, and truthful place while remaining committed to your long-term vision for society or for your various communities. Now, we're also called to examine our inner dialogue for familiar, rigid, or negative thought patterns that have been holding us back. So ask yourself, what if just for today, I brought 5% more authentic and joyful self-expression to my social interactions? And what if I did the same with my inner dialogue? So if I could bring 5% more authentic and joyful self-expression to my inner dialogue. Now, we are dealing with a lot of fixed signs here in this new moon chart. So it would be futile to get too attached to thoughts, visions, pride, emotional connections, comforts, habits, opinions of any sort, etc., etc. So really, with the fixed signs, practice flexibility, practice being open-minded and adaptable and mutable. That will really support you with all that fixed energy. Now, to sum it all up for this new moon invites us to reconnect to what lights us up and nurtures us, something that we love, and how we want to express that in the world, even when what we're expressing does not align with other people's preferences or ideologies. So we need to kind of be courageous and just trust our own heart. It also wants us to consider working within the framework of what is realistic at this time, remaining conscious about what we can and cannot do. And for the next 4 weeks after the new moon becomes exact, as best as you can, pause occasionally and ask yourself these questions. What am I grateful for in my life? How could I express that gratitude? And to whom? And could I express my joy directly and honestly? And how could I go about engaging others in a joyful dialogue that aligns with my inner truth? Now, if you do have an ascendant or any personal planets in 3 to 8 degrees of Leo, Aquarius, Taurus, or Scorpio, then you will feel the impact of this new moon more than other people. But even if you don't have planets or points in those degrees and signs, take a look at your natal chart, take a look at your birth chart if you have one, and just look to see where does 5.5 degree of Leo land in my birth chart, and the house placement of the new moon will indicate which area of life is most ready for a new beginning for the next 28 days, and also how you can grow something in that area of your life over the next 28 days. Now, you can also check out my 30-minute class on how to read your birth chart. If you don't have a birth chart, if you don't know how to take advantage of this, You can get free access via my homepage at astrologercoach.com to this 30-minute class. You just have to scroll down on the homepage until you get to a window that says free class, and then just click on that and off you go. Now, let's talk about new moon intentions. The new moon is also the best time to set some powerful intentions for this moon cycle. Intentions are best done soon after the new moon becomes exact, and definitely not during a moon void, of course, phase. So this month, the best and most potent time to set intentions would be anytime between 1:55 p.m. on July 28th and 12:29 a.m., which is right after midnight, on July 29-30, right? So it's already July 30th, but it's sort of like on the cusp of July 29th. So as always with all times, these are in EDT, which is New York, the New York time zone. If you live outside of the Eastern Daylight Savings time zone and converting time zones isn't your thing, I suggest joining my Facebook fan page or following me on Twitter. I will be posting reminders on both platforms on July 28th, 29th, and the 30th to let you know when is the best time to set your intentions. Now, for more information about setting intentions, go to my website, to the blog page, and look for astrology articles or the tag New Moon Intentions. And you can also find the link below this video if you can't find it on my website. Now, to sign up for my free monthly newsletter, you can do that via my homepage at astrologercoach.com, or you can email us at info@astrologercoach.com and just write newsletter in the subject line. The monthly newsletter goes out once or twice a month with special offers, videos, announcements, etc., etc. Now, if you have any general questions, then definitely email me at info@astrologercoach.com. If you have any personal questions that require that I pull up your birth chart, please book a reading at astrologercoach.com, or any questions connected to what's coming up within the next 30 to 40 days. Join the next monthly forecasting forum on August 13th. Again, we will focus on the upcoming exalted Uranus in Taurus energy from August 10th to September 14th, and how to make the best use of Mercury's pre-shadow phase in Virgo Libra, which will take place between August 20th and September 9th. So if you want to know how to use this pre-shadow phase to your advantage, join us on August 13th. There will be an early bird special available until August 10th at midnight. And once you're registered, you can ask a question in advance. Just email me by August 12th at the end of the workday. And my members will hear from me in 2 weeks around the time of the full moon via the full moon article. So we can look at how far we've come since setting our new moon intentions. And everyone else in 4 weeks for the next new moon. And as always, stay focused on your physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being. It's very important that we keep approaching life from a holistic place where we integrate all of the parts, not just some of it, but really connect to all of you, so you can remain healthy and happy. All right, have a fantastic new moon, and I see you again soon. Much love. This is Astrologer Coach Sonja Francis.